How to replace flanking with cinematic advantage, today on Dungeon Craft. Welcome to Dungeon Craft. I'm Professor Dungeon Master, and this channel is about playing the ultimate game of D&D and other role-playing games.
And I'm Deathbringer. Level up your game by subscribing and click the bell icon so you'll be informed when we upload new videos every week.
I'm a huge fan of Sly Flourish and his book Return of the Lazy DungeonMaster, and recently on his website, linked to those below, he introduced a new rule. It is a new concept. I absolutely love it. It's called cinematic advantage, and it's a way to replace flanking altogether. The problem with flanking is you really need a grid. That's one of my pet peeves with 5e. It's a little too gritty. The great thing about cinematic advantage is you can use it with a grid or without, or with gridless terrain like I use with my ultimate dungeon terrain. This simple rule allows players to leap from balconies, swing from chandeliers, and jump onto monsters' backs. All kinds of stunts. This is how it works. The concept is simple. 1. While describing the situation, the DM describes the interesting features in the area. 2. The player describes how they want to use a feature to get a cinematic advantage. 3. The DM determines what attribute or skill or skills might be used to accomplish that feat, sets the DC, and tells the players what penalty they face if they fail, so they can make an informed choice. 4. The player rolls the check as part of their move or action. On a success, they get advantage on their next attack. On a failure, something bad happens, depending on what they tried, often falling prone or getting disadvantage. So here's a staircase in a room. A character can run up the staircase and jump down on the troll's back. You tell them in advance it's a 10 dex check. If you succeed, you get advantage. If you fail, the troll turns at the last moment and you land on the floor and get disadvantage. That's it. Super simple. The advantages of this system are many. It replaces the mechanical aspects of the game with narration that makes it seem more like a film you're watching or a story you're reading. It works equally well with theater of the mind or terrain, and it rewards player characters for clever thinking and taking risks. Examples: climbing onto the back of a larger foe, sliding underneath a big foe and slashing at its vitals, banking a magic missile off a reflective surface, leaping over dangerous terrain, swinging from a chandelier or rope, or leaping off a moving vehicle. Let's check out a sample room with my ultimate dungeon terrain, and we're going to make it the simplest, most boring room I can think of, a guard room. Here's a nest of bandits, and we have some barrels, a table, some crates, and a fireplace. Can the rogue sneak up on the big guy with the crossbow and push that crate down on top of him? Yes, dex check 10. Can the spit in the fireplace be used as an improvised weapon that sets an opponent on fire? Yes, strength test 12. Can the fighter use that smaller barrel as a step, then run up the barrels and jump down on the table and kick that crossbowman in the face? Hell yes, dex check 13. Here's another encounter of the mad scientist's laboratory, and we have the mad scientist and one of his ghoulish creations and his assistant. We've also got this strange globe, this bubbling vat of chemicals, his bookshelf and chemistry setup, and this cage. Can the wizard draw energy from the strange globe? Yes, intelligence 10. Can they take a bottle of acid from off the shelf and fling it at the assistant's face? Dexterity 11. Can they push an opponent into that bubbling stew of chemicals? Strength test 12. Can they open the cage and release the zombie horde and have it devour their own master? Dexterity 13. You don't want to make the DC too hard. You want to encourage the players to think cinematically. Nor do you want to make it too easy. Like for your group, some of those DCs might be a little too low, like if they have a very high strength. If you don't have terrain, just use a 3x5 index card and list the features of the room on it. When they take their turn, remind your players what they can do and the possible benefits. Encourage them to participate and negotiate. They may even think of something original that you hadn't have thought of. For example, in the guard room and the laboratory, are any of those liquids flammable? Ask yourself, would that make the game more fun? Of course it would. And the only thing players love more than rolling fistfuls of 20s and getting natural 20 is fire. This type of play makes the game so much more exciting, and if you've ever played in that game where all the player characters take the same turns with the same feats and the same moves in the same order every single round, this is one of the ways that you can get beyond that and encourage them to do something else. But there are even more benefits to cinematic advantage. It gets your players thinking away from all they can do is what's on their character sheet. Like if I don't have acrobatics, I can't do acrobatic things. Yes, you can. You have a dexterity, and if you see that feature in the room where it's a possibility, you can do that thing. What you can do is only limited by the features of the room and your brain. But this is one of the reasons I don't like all the additional rule books that have come out. Once you codify the rules and say, these are the rules for doing this and that, people think it gives you options, but it's just the opposite. More rules limit your options because players' minds are primed to believe that if it's not in the rule book, they can't do it. That's not true. You can do anything that you and the Game Master decide that you can do. That's one of the things that makes tabletop role-playing games, in my opinion, superior to video games. The parameters aren't set in stone. You can punch through the wall if your Game Master says that you can do it. This type of synergy, this creativity between the player and the Game Master, negotiating the environment, that is something that you just can't do in any other medium. And it's one of those things that cinematic advantage embraces. And now for the criticisms. I know what some people are going to say. If I attack from the flank, I get advantage. If I attack from below, I get advantage. Attack from above, I get advantage. This all seems like it's the same. Your player's never going to notice that because players love advantage. They love chucking more dice. It's fun. And when they roll a natural 20, a big cheer goes up. And if there's some other mechanic that already gives them advantage, give them triple advantage. Nobody in my game has ever complained that they had too many d20s to roll, and every one has that chance of getting the natural 20. Advantage is great because it compresses a lot of rules into one simple concept. Instead of getting into the weeds, you get +1 for this and +2 for that. You just roll an extra die. Always remember that anytime you break a game subsystem into smaller increments, it is going to make the game slower and longer. Initiative, for example, individual initiative takes longer to adjudicate than group initiative. Assigning bonuses for things like flank and attacking from above and partial cover and half cover and sofa cover, all these things slow the game. Advantage compresses these ideas into one simple concept and the players can just get on with it and roll the dice. Ever notice that players have this weird habit that they want to know the exact number with all the modifications they need to hit before they roll the dice? If you say advantage, they're more likely to just chuck the dice and read the numbers and keep the game moving. Cinematic advantage is one of the best rules I have read in a long time. Probably one of the best since advantage and disadvantage. And you can use it whether you're a 5e, Pathfinder player, or an OSR player. It works in every game system. I've included a link to Sly Flourish's website and his book, Return of the Lazy DungeonMaster, below. They are great. Check them out. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share it on social media. That helps our channel grow. So to comments, you can put those below. Also below, you'll find a link to our Dungeon Craft Facebook group, Patreon, and Macbeth, my blood-soaked collaboration with William Shakespeare and the Quest Givers, available for download exclusively at questgivers.com. Once again, for Dungeon Craft, I'm Professor Dungeon Master. Thanks so much for spending this time with me. I'll see you soon, and until then, may all your rolls be 20s.
Deathbringer again. I would use cinematic advantage to find a better director. Instead, I'm stuck here with a Scorsese of styrofoam. If you're stuck with nothing to do, click on these videos for more Dungeon Craft.